What's up, faithful? Coming off a huge draft day, the Niners addressed a lot of needs. Obviously, the buzz of the town, Trey Lance. But there was areas of need that the Niners addressed great in this draft. Jose, what was your opinion of what they did?
I thought it was great. I thought you summed it up perfect there. They addressed areas of need, not just for the future, but areas of need for this upcoming season. So I thought it was crucial. Of obviously the Trey Lance was huge, but then the rounds after that, I thought getting the right guys was really pretty crucial for the team for this upcoming season. So I think if you look at what they did, second round going offensive line, I think we all know. Offensive line is always going to be a huge key, especially for this Niners team who had a lot of injuries, especially at quarterback. So I thought that was huge. I think the real splash of the later rounds was definitely them actually moving up in the third round to pick up Sermon, running back out of Ohio State. We saw him have a lot of success at Ohio State. Obviously, when you play with a lot of NFL talent, which he did, you're going to have your chances and you're going to have your opportunities to shine. But that doesn't mean he's not going to be well. He's not going to do good in the NFL. I think he actually fits this offense very, very well. And it actually speaks volume as to what Kyle Shanahan is trying to do this upcoming season. You're going to see the Niners run the ball a lot. And that's the reason why they went out and got two guards and then they got Sermon. And I think it's the right move. And then even Trey Lance kind of fits into that style as well. So maybe it's a kind of foreshadowing into what we're going to see from Trey Lance this upcoming season. Maybe he is intending for him to win that quarterback battle and start week one. Having a running game would definitely help out any rookie quarterback. So I thought that was the biggest thing that I took out of them addressing big needs. I'll let you get into the other needs that were needed in this draft, especially that defensive back. But I thought the offensive line, them addressing those issues, especially at guard, it's going to help a lot. And we're going to see that in this upcoming season.
Well, I think the line is always something that I'm very happy when I hear the Niners build through. Building from the trenches is just a good way, a good discipline of building out a roster. And Aaron Banks, he's a big boy. He's a big boy right in the center of that line. Which is exactly what the Niners needed. Just look at the Super Bowl highlights. Look at what Chris Jones was doing to us relentlessly. And then it just so happens that we have potentially one of the greatest interior linemen of all time that we have to play twice a year. We know that day in and day out. You look at what the Cardinals were able to do, picking up J.J. Watt this year. You know they're going to swing him inside from time to time. So you need guys that can protect your quarterback, whether that's Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance. So I am very pleased to see what they did with Aaron Banks in particular, and then we'll get into their other guy they picked up on the line. Then we go into what they did in the third round. As you mentioned, they had to move up with the Rams to get Trey Sermon. So Trey in the Bay, that goes for both our running back and quarterback that we picked up in this draft. So if you want to get that hashtag trending, even though you have to change up the spelling of Trey, but still either way, I'm very happy with that pick as well. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan's offense goes through the run game. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It doesn't matter whether we're starting Trey Lance this year. And you mentioned potential foreshadowing. Sure, I personally think that Jimmy's going to play every game this year unless he gets hurt. Every game this year unless he gets hurt. That's how I believe the Niners want to do it. I think they want that slow play, similar all Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes. That's what everyone's saying. Project versus prospect when it comes to Trey Lance. And I think Trey Sermon, why go up and why pick up a Trey Sermon in the third round? That's one of the big things that you'll talk about with, like, in particular, because Kyle Shanahan, he's the running back maker. We look at what he's done with lesser talent over the last few years, whether that be Matt Breida, undrafted rookie, Jeff Wilson Jr., undrafted. These guys have come up big for the Niners. So why does he need to go up in the third round? Well, I'll tell you, because Trey Sermon, he's a special talent. If he didn't get hurt in the national title game, Alabama might have only beat them by like 10 or 20. Or it wouldn't have been nearly as ugly as it ended up being, because Trey Sermon was a huge part of that Buckeyes offense. And I'm very pleased to hear that he's part of a team. I felt like they needed to go running back in this draft because we saw a lot of injuries at that position last year. Obviously, high ankle sprains. I would tune on some Niner games, and my high ankle was hurting. That's how bad it started to get after a while. So good picks. And then, yeah, let's kind of like back and forth here. So as you mentioned, let's get into those later rounds to see what we had. Third pick, or similar, another third round pick, Ambry Thomas, Michigan. I'll be honest, this is part of the draft where I don't know these guys intimately. I don't know inside and out every part of their game. But what I can tell you is the Niners needed defensive back help because not just for this year, but they were able to bring back, obviously, Jason Verrett, K'Wan Williams, all these guys on one-year deals. But that's not going to last, obviously. You need to keep restocking. You need to keep replenishing the cupboard and getting guys on these rookie deals to at least secure 4 more years there. Ambry Thomas was a right selection in round 3. Hopefully he can really develop into the scheme that D'Amico Ryans wants to run. And then close off too with the other defensive back help we have in round 5, Diamond or Oregon. This guy tallies high energy. He talked like one of John Gruden's draft picks, saying he's a hyena and he just wants to go out there and take out the prey. So good for him. And then the next Troy Polamalu, Talona Hufanga out of USC. So this is the first safety drafted by the John Lynch administration. So that's an interesting thing to note there. What do you think of the picks at defensive back in particular?
I like it, just the fact that we even drafted 3 defensive backs. I mean, that right there is going to help. Obviously, every draft you're going to have guys aren't going to work out with the team they got drafted by. But hopefully, we're being super hopeful here that every single pick, every single year by the Niners ends up working well. But if you have 3 guys that are not expected to play big roles and could really learn from a pretty experienced defensive back unit now, I think it's going to help not just the team. It'll help those 3 guys. It was obviously an area of need. Especially the team got injured a lot last year. It could happen again this year. So you're going to need guys to step in. And last year they actually had that. The secondary wasn't too, in some weeks, the secondary wasn't too much of a letdown. In other weeks there was. And other weeks you could have used 3 rookies that, were in the system for a whole offseason. And hey, these rookies are going to have an offseason this year, we hope. So I think they addressed it well. And I think them going with corner twice helps out a lot. Yes, you mentioned they brought back Jason Verrett and Emmanuel Mosley. Can we really trust those guys? I don't know.
Let's be really honest about Jason Verrett.
Let's be really honest. Exactly right. Before last year, I mean, it was kind of a little bit of a disaster of his situation with the Niners. Emmanuel Mosley, he's kind of up and down. Whenever he's up, though, he could be a really, really good cornerback, but whenever he has his letdowns, you see a lot of breaks and coverages. And then we still don't really know what's going to happen with Richard Sherman. That's still kind of a question mark. So I think, going corner twice was the right move. You mentioned them finally drafting a safety. Jimmy Ward and Kwasi Tart, they aren't like the heaviest of hitters, but they like to hit people. That usually means injuries a lot of the time. So you're going to need guys to step in at some points of the season. So even going safety, that's huge.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing too. When we talk Verrett, when we talk Tart, when we talk Jimmy Ward, these guys have just been absolutely plagued by injuries. And I always have this debate on injury prone versus bad injury luck. With those guys, it does seem to be injury prone because they always seem to be injuring similar type parts of their body. And I think it's just a style of play issue at this point. Like you mentioned, Kwasi Tart, he goes with big hit. He's not necessarily the biggest safety. And I think it's good to have reinforcements there. And when I say homage to Troy Polamalu for Hufanga here, obviously he actually has a relationship with Troy. Both go to USC. Both kind of have this similar type hairstyle. Hopefully he gets a Head and Shoulders commercial when he's done and is a Niners all-time great. Let's go. Ronnie Lott 2.0. Let's do this.
Let's talk. I'll be asking quite a bit, right? That's
from a fifth rounder.
No pressure, kid.
No pressure, fifth rounder, sixth rounder. Yeah. Pick 180.
Go be Ronnie Lott.
See it. Hey, you can pick up good defensive backs in the later rounds. That's why when we talk about player evaluations, like where you can pick up talent, there's some talent to be had in the later rounds at defensive back. I'm just glad they just I think just building that number, building up the cupboard so much is huge for them to at least give them options of rotating guys in and out. And like I said, so for future years, because they got, again, very lucky they were able to re-sign everyone this year. They're not going to be able to do that next year. We got to re-sign Fred Warner. We got to figure out Bosa. We might have a little bit of money depending on what happens with Jimmy, but still, like, you just want to be able to have those guys that could just slot in after guys leave, especially with K'Wan, speaking of slots as well. All right, well, let's talk about the other guys. So a couple more picks here. Jalen Moore, offensive lineman, Western Michigan. People talk about him as a potential tackle option, but I think of him more as a guard this year. I think that's a more likely position for him to compete for, because we did pick up Mike McGlinchey's 5th-year option. I know a lot of people are groaning at that decision, but the fact of the matter is, when the Niners selected Mike McGlinchey with the 7th overall pick, they didn't do it with the expectation that he would be gone from their roster in less than 5 years. So it only made sense that they picked up his 5th-year option. They can't do it again. They already let Solomon Thomas go, then pick up his 5th-year option. You don't want to do that again when we're talking about Mike McGlinchey, the pick in the following year's draft. It's just a bad look for the GM that you have to not pick up the 5th-year option on 2 straight first-round picks. And then the other pick too, which is a little bit of a surprise given that we did pick up Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, Louisiana, 6th round. So 2 running backs picked up by Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Makes for a bit of a crowded running back room there. Obviously, we have Jeff Wilson Jr. still on roster. We still have Raheem Mostert. And now you insert the 2 rookies. And I believe, too, I want to say they even brought in another undrafted rookie running back as well.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
So that does leave a lot of bodies in camp. And I think competition is a good thing. Obviously, we let go of Tevin Coleman and others. Disappointed we didn't bring back Frank Gore, but still, good for the rookies. We'll see. There's a thought process. Maybe even Elijah Mitchell could be better than Trey Sermon in his first year. What do you think of those picks?
I mean, I think it kind of speaks volumes as to what Kyle Shanahan's really trying to do, regardless of who's at quarterback. They're going to pound the rock, and I do not blame them. It looks like they built that offensive line, going with 2 guards in the draft, and then having obviously the 2 big tackles, and then obviously having a center Alex Mack. That's gonna help out a lot as well. But I think Kyle Shanahan is just trying to run the ball a lot. Obviously, when the Niners were successful 2 years ago, that's what they did. They literally got to the Super Bowl by throwing the ball 8 times. And I think they're trying to mimic a lot of that. And why not? If defenses across the league are starting to have trouble defending the run, and why not just continue to feed onto that? Why not continue to be one of the more dominant running football teams in the league? I'll be pretty disappointed if the 49ers in 2021 aren't at least top 5 in the league when it comes to rushing attempts and rushing yards and combined and any rushing stat, and they're not in the top 5. I'll be pretty disappointed, because it's just built that this team is looking like they're built like that, and not just the running back position. You look at some of the guys that are outside that running back position, guys like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, even George Kittle. You brought Juice back. I mean, you could give the ball to a lot of people. And if Trey Lance is going to have a couple snaps, hey, he could run the ball too. So I think, the 2 running backs, it makes a lot of sense. And I could very easily see the team going into week 1 with 4 running backs on the roster. I have no problem with that as long as the running game is successful.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Best draft pick not named Trey Lance.
I'm going to go with Trey Sermon. I love that pick. I love what he did at Ohio State. If anything, whenever Justin Fields was kind of struggling there with that offense at Ohio State, they relied to Trey Sermon. And it was Trey Sermon, getting past those huge Big Ten defensive tackles, getting past those huge linebackers, and Big Ten, one of the best conferences when it comes to secondary guys. He was blowing by a lot of those guys once he got to that second level. So I'm excited for that pick. I'm so happy that they moved up, because whenever they made the trade with Los Angeles, I was like, wait, what? Like, what are they drafting? Honestly, what I really thought they were going to do was draft another receiver. And the fact that they didn't draft a single receiver in this year's draft kind of speaks volumes to it itself, not just to where they want to go with, the running game, but they're probably pretty happy with the receivers that they have now. So, yeah, I was excited about Trey Sermon. I'm excited to see what he's going to do with this Kyle Shanahan offense.
I'm going to flag them. This might be a way too early prediction here. I'm going to say they do what they did a couple of years ago and try and pick a veteran wide receiver off the trade market at some point this year. That might be a spoiler alert. That might be a video for another day. My favorite draft pick is going to be Aaron Banks, the 2nd round pick. I believe that if you continue to stock with quality offensive linemen, build that interior line. You talk about this team being built in a different way. Yeah, they're built different. Aaron Banks, he is built different. And I think that this will keep a lot of pressure off Jimmy Garoppolo, keep a lot of our run plays going for another extra 2-3 yards, which I think is huge. Put him right next to Put him right next to Trent Williams on that line, get the big boys really going. And I think that gives you a team to be scared of. Anyway, Niners faithful, let us know in the comments below your favorite draft pick that the Niners made. Let us know your draft grade. What do you think of this one? Leave a like on this video, and of course, subscribe to the channel, because there's 49 reasons to listen, but there are millions of reasons to subscribe. We'll see you next time.